differently abled, differently.
Sickle cell disease is one of the non-communicable diseases that require awareness of the highest level in order to rid off the myths and misconceptions surrounding it. We spent time with some members from Children's Sickle Cell Foundation at the German Center in Mathare. Take a look.
It took us many years to get the treatment guidelines out, but I'm happy to say that finally it's out. In July it was launched and it was out in the space, in the media. It was out in the public space that yes, now we have treatment guidelines. But we cannot only have treatment guidelines. Now let's go to the next stage of implementing them. All clinics that take care of people living with sickle cell must understand how the treatment guidelines work.
Selina of Children's Sickle Cell Foundation says that these guidelines will go a long way in taking care of people living with sickle cell.
There are choices we make as parents which don't sound realistic or fair to our children, but we have to make these choices in order for them to survive. So as we continue with policy change, as we push for it, we know there's goodwill in the government. We only ask them to just pay a little bit attention. I know when COVID came, everything went down flat for us. We had to start from scratch. But there's no hope lost. At least we are seeing many things are now coming up again.
Elvis is living with sickle cell disease.
I've been living with sickle cell for right now, since it was realized at Kenyatta National Hospital. That was when I was 2 years older. Right now I'm 17 and a half years older.
Peter, who does advocacy disease, dismisses the notion that people with sickle cell do not grow past a certain age.
It's even being taught now that people living with sickle cell, they hardly live beyond 19 years, something like that. And that thing has really stuck into the minds of people. They hardly live beyond. There before, it used to happen because of management was not there. Health personnel were not at par with what sickle cell really is. Drugs were never there. So people were perishing because there were no drugs, there were no professionals, doctors seeing them. Definitely you will die. Any disease, when it is not managed, including malaria. Malaria is one of the major killers. When it is not managed, you will definitely die.
He says it is always a challenge breaking the news of the diagnosis.
When a parent comes for the first time and they don't come here knowing the condition of the child, which kind of disease their child is having. So they come for treatment. Probably the child is crying, the child is showing some symptoms which they don't understand. So when they come here, the doctor takes them through the sickling test. Now, after the diagnosis, the result is now breaking the news. We normally say it's a bad news. So we also learn on how to break the bad news to this part.
And as Elvis says, he has faced a lot of stigma.
When I was in primary, there was a lot of stigmatization. Primary, shule, watu wataki ucheze mpira because they see you, wanasema if you play the ball, utakufia kwa kiwanja. Because they didn't understand the situation. But since I knew about my situation, so mimi nilikuwa najikeep away from them. Saa zingine nilikuwa nakaa kwa nyumba because of this stigmatization.
He, however, does not see sickle cell disease as a stumbling block to a better future, but rather a blessing in disguise.
So kenye imenisaidia ni kuongea na kujijua. So nimeaccept to live na hii condition yenye niko nayo.
It is his quest to bring people with sickle cell disease together that landed him at the Children's Sickle Cell Foundation.
So someone told me there is some foundations outside there. Go and Google. You will find them. So Google foundation kwa saiba nikaona sicklers wako wengi hadi outside the country, even Europe, there are still sicklers. So nikasema let me go and join these foundations. So I didn't know. Some friend told me nikuja hapa German doctors hapo Mathare, and they advised me that when I come here I'll find people like me and I will be advised about living with sickle cell. I came here, I learned a lot. They took care of me well. Wakaniambia venye naweza pata madawa. So madawa pia napata tu bure. So they don't have to pay that much. But everything is quite well when nilikuja hapa. So I saw like I have a family. Even though I don't have the family, my blood family, I have a family that cares about me and they feel like I also feel.
Selena began this journey after her son was diagnosed with sickle cell, and like most parents, she had to find ways to save her son.
I remember when my son was diagnosed, I was very confused. Yes, I have a nephew with sickle cell, but I didn't understand where is this sickle cell coming from. It was foreign. So when I joined, I remember the day I met Dr. Wafula, all I cared about was, will I be able to see my grandchildren? And that was key for me, because seeing my grandchildren meant that this boy would be an adult. It's been one of those miraculous journeys. I say this with just holding my breath and telling God thank you. Because when I joined the foundation, for me it was, I don't care whether he's sick or not, every month I will take him to hospital. So I had a plan. Every month we would take him to Dr. Afula and say, check if he's okay. And he would go through, he would check him, he would be able to pick sometimes when he's going down with an infection. So these things we managed to cover them very early. And as we kept on growing, we also learned a lot about also his patterns. And therefore, yes, there are moments when he would get very sick, but I wouldn't say that we've had a situation where he's been really, really down, because with time we got to understand his patterns.
People with sickle cell disease experience excruciating pain, and Elvis says this is usually his low moment.
We are the only people who experience much pain than other people can experience. You know, sometimes we go to hospital, tunapiga nduru, hata mtu anakuona, huyu ni ule Elvis, ule mtu mzima huyu, tabianga hivi ndo analianga kama mtoto. So sometimes najaribu kuelezea watu the pain that we feel. If you feel the same pain that I feel, sidhani ka watu wengine wanaweza survive pain yenye sisi watu tunasikia. It's like someone picking a fork and rubbing them at your joints, and anazikuna kabisa. So na stop. Now imagine that kind of pain.
These are people who experience extreme pain. They have regular infections. It's not like you would go somewhere and come back. These are people who, when they're exposed to certain places, they get sick. Why? The anemia that they suffer already exposes them to low immunity.
With the proper early diagnosis and management, many people with sickle cell disease can now be able to go about their duties.
When we started the clinic, we started seeing the fruits of our labor. And slowly we saw people now appreciating. You can imagine situations where mothers could not hold jobs. You wash for people, but today you are there, tomorrow you're not there, you're in hospital for a whole week, come back, find somebody else has taken the job, and you're always constantly in debt because you cannot even afford to do work. You're in hospital day in, day out, and this is the story we needed to change, and especially to the informal settlements.
What makes me happy or drives me is when parents leave this place. They come crying with tears, they leave here with joy. Why are they living here with joy? Because of the amount of encouragement.
Having seen the positive impact they are making, they are now targeting teens who have sickle cell disease.
These children are growing, and as they grow, they ask many questions. Some of them tend to rebel against the norms of what needs to be done for their management. So as we start early, we realize that if we start them at the teenage level, we can then now continue educating them as individuals who stand to be responsible for their own well-being.
She calls for support, especially with putting up more clinics to offer these important services.
In the county hospitals, we have managed to partner with the people who live in the mashinani. And some of the county hospitals are also supported by other initiatives, like there's AMPATH who's supported Homa Bay, Busia and Eldoret clinics. They'd supported them for a while. But in those groups, we managed to coordinate or cooperate with the support groups that are there. So we share knowledge, we share information, we join up in activities that we do together. And at the moment, we are also working with Nairobi County so that we can expand the services in Nairobi. And one of the most important things is that in Nairobi County, we want to make sure that within the sub-counties, sickle cell clinics are identified within these sub-county clinics. And this is to help expand the service.
We do a lot of outreach. We work with the churches, family meetings, social gatherings, schools. We did a training with the county government of Nairobi, series of trainings with them. We joined programs because we want all the county government facilities be able to manage sickle cell properly.
Medical insurance cover for people with sickle cell disease, as she says, will go a long way in the management.
So something like NHIF should cover everything. This is somebody who's born with a genetic disorder. They never chose it. Why are we making it so difficult for them to even just breathe the air that is there for free? If NHIF today would just say, for people who have genetic disorders, this is their package, I'm sure people will be happy to pay for it. But today I'm paying for NHIF, but what does NHIF cover for me? Only when I am admitted. Is that all that it takes to have sickle cell? No, we don't have to be admitted. We want to be outpatient people.
School-going children who have sickle cell also face challenges, especially when transiting to the next level of learning.
For school-going children, especially the candidates, we have class 8 going into first form. But what's the selection criteria to high school? When you're given a school, you go to that school. We don't care whether there's a hospital there or people understand what sickle cell is. Now, these are people who go for clinic on a monthly basis for checkup. These are people who have doctors who know them. These are people who take daily medications. There are certain parts of this country that don't even understand what sickle cell is. Now, when a child is moved from their primary location where they were used to care to a remote area, what are you saying? What are you saying? You're actually punishing that child for working hard.
Selina is grateful to the organizations that continue to support them in this very important mission.
I'd like to thank a few institutions who've come to our aid and have just said, yeah, we hear you, we want to support you. These are the people who've made the lives of people living with sickle cell now better. We have a situation where we had lost hope. We didn't know who to go to anymore, but soon they reached out and they said they're ready to help. But more is needed, and one of the things that we need is a sickle cell comprehensive center, a center which takes care of clinical issues, a center that takes care of research, and a center that takes care of the educational component. Educational starts from the clinician to the caregivers and the patient. When it comes to research, why do we have to wait for people to bring in their trials to our country and then take it away? There are certain drugs that have been done for trials here, but here they are FDA approved, but we cannot reach them, we cannot afford them. So why bring the trial here if we cannot access them? There are many, many talented clinicians in this country. Why can't they also start a program of research where they try to find a solution for sickle cell? The cohort is here. There's the clinical aspect of it, which is wide, it's broad. It goes up to the mental health.
Advisable to let the school administration know if your child has sickle cell. This will come a long way in ensuring that your teachers know how to handle your child and to avoid any unnecessary doubts or worries.
Parents and teachers need to work together in terms of management, especially when they go for admission. While you are filling that admission form to enroll your child into a school, I think it's very important to make the teachers, the people who will be staying with your child in class the whole day, they know the condition of your child, because this will also help you to manage this condition.
Let's take a look at the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities.
Article 25 of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities states that state parties shall, Part B, provide those health services needed by persons with disabilities, specifically because of their disabilities, including early identification and intervention as appropriate, and services designed to minimize and prevent further disabilities, including among children and older persons.
It's our sincere hope that you've learned a thing or two from today's episode. It's goodbye from us. Enjoy the rest of the evening. My name is Vin Theory. Goodbye.
We are here and we are strong. Let's be counted as we move on. Make a difference, change lives as we tell our different stories. We are capable, beautiful. We are born to do great things. We're unstoppable, incredible, 'cause we're differently abled, differently.